Check out our past video for the beginning. Out of these prescriptures came the subgenius church, so named because you only qualify to join if your IQ is below genius. A pipe in his mouth and a maniacal gleam in his eyes were trademarks of Bob. And so his fanatical cult sues for copyright violation anyone whose eyes gleam in a similar fashion. Other exciting features of the subgeni include their spirited quest for slack, their brave determination to be overmen, their understandable disgust of techno boredom, their unblushing crash commercialism, and their keen pride in their northern Tibetan indomitable snowman ancestry. This is crazy. Slack is a way to communicate, and what was the other one that was above the Sirius dog? Um, Sirius still broadcasting. You can find out more by sending them to your bank account. If, on the other hand, you would rather join the Bavarian Illuminati, you have to bury your bank account in a cigar box in your yard. Is this why, oh man, who's, Roman, Mr. Roman's like buried in the backyard. That's where you put your cash. One of their underground agents will find it and contact you. Our religion is so completely infiltrated with agents of the ancient illuminated Seers of Bavaria that if, for instance, you pass out fair play for Switzerland flyers, for us, you are assured for rapid advancement to more important work for the Illuminati. Wow. Both the Illuminatus trilogy by Robert Shea and Robert Anton Wilson and the Illuminati board game by Steve Jackson mention the Discordian Society almost as often as they speak of the nefarious Bavarian conspirators themselves. Prestige of intimate association with Illuminati is enormous because they have absolutely ruled the world for the past 5,000 years. Unlike the Illuminati, who are everywhere, the Right Reverend Jesse Sump's First Evangelical and Unrepentant Church of No Faith is an exclusive Discordian franchise. Upon receiving a precious mail button that said, "We must have faith in the party and we must have faith in the masses," Sump exclaimed, "No faith. No faith in the party, no faith in the masses, no faith in God, no faith in the ruling class," and thus First Evangelical and Unrepentant Church of No Faith began. Jesse Sump has faith in Eris Discordia, although because everybody just got to believe in something, perhaps the chief difference between Discordian society and Sump's outfit is one of style. We got it, they don't. But if you like wonder working yourself into a frenzy at camp, meetings in order to foam at the mouth, speak in tongues, handle snakes, run moonshine, and experience phantasmagoria, the No Faith Church will make you happy as a pig in mud. Of course, all the high church glitter of the Paratheo Animenta mystichood of Eris Esoteric is not yours for the asking. We solicit no donations, demand no tithes, charge no emissions, levy no poll tax, and run only a few nifty religious novelty stores on the side. But certain obligations adhere to more howled manifestations of discordianship. Eating hot dog buns is prohibited except on Friday when it is compulsory. Stepped on cockroaches, you will earn no points with your blessed Saint Gulick. You must discipline yourself under a certified slackmaster until you are capable of drinking beer and watching television with total concentration. All bowling alleys are sacred to Discordians, and if necessary, you must give your life to protect them from desecration. If anyone ever decides to desecrate bowling alleys, finally you must not rest until all the sheep are brought into the fold. And we convert all the sheep. We are going to the dogs next, then wolves, goats, and anointed our human beings in the anointed hour. Goddess also expects you to work on yourself. You must devote your full attention to every task you perform, so you will realize in a flash of sudden enlightenment how confusing it is. You must master one little moron riddle after another until, with years of study, there is no longer any separation in your perception between subject and object, between you and the little moron. Then there are bigots who will persecute you because they hate Eris Discordia and have no better sense than to judge an entire religion by the behavior of a single deity. But before I was a Discordian, when I entered my room, only to be reminded by its disarray that it was a mess, I felt a sense of defeat. These days, when that happens, I just say, "Hail Eris," our customary salute to the embodiment of chaos, and then cheerfully carry on, secure in the knowledge that the constellations look no better. Before I was a Discordian, I wasted a lot of time arguing with evangelists about God and Jesus. Now they waste a lot of time arguing about Eris Discordia with me. Before I was Discordian, I took life much too seriously. When you take life seriously, you start to wonder what the point of it all is. When you wonder what the point is in life, you fall into a trap of thinking there is one. When you think there is a point, you finally realize that there is no point. And what point is there in living like that? Nowadays, I skip the search for a point to find instead the punchlines. Seems to be, I don't know. There's a lot. This is gonna be a long one. Before I was Scordian, I was distressed by the inefficiency and inhumanity of organizations. Now I am vindicated by their inefficiency and inhumanity. Wow. Before I was a Discordian, I used to be afraid of my own shadow. But now my shadow is afraid of me. Having, but now, having at last glimpsed the value of Discordianism, you are hereby ready to be awed by the importance of the little book you hold in your hands at this very moment. 5 years of Discordian society activity had transpired before the first edition of Principia Discordia rolled off the district attorney's Jim Garrison's mimeograph machine without his knowledge in New Orleans in 1964. That was the work of Gregory Hill and Lane Kaplinger, a Discordian typist in the DA's office. During the next 5 years, Greg produced bigger and funnier editions with little help from me, but not so much as the enemies of our faith suspect. By no means is the Principia our only scripture. All along, Greg has been writing what he says is a summary of the universe, but evidently it will be quite some time before he completes it. Additionally, there are piles and piles of Discordian leaflets and broadsides cranked out by zealous converts from everywhere, with ones arriving in the mail each month. But Goddess only knows where they all are now, or remembers what they said. There is also chaos, broadsheets, and ontological anarchism by Hakim Bey, Grim Reaper books of the unarmed expropriation committee of the John Henry Mackay Society and Bishop of Persia in exile. Whoa. Of the Moorish Orthodox Church of America, but our most exalted testament of all is the honest book of truth, of which there is, alas, only one copy locked away in the closed stacks of the Akashic records. Akashic, only qualified Discordian episcoposes with activated pineal gland may copy passages from it, and these may only be published when they can be shown beyond a reasonable doubt to have redeeming social value, such as educating you or arousing purient interest. But this fourth and fifth combined edition of the Principia Discordia is unquestionably the most influential of all of the great immortal works of significant literature of our classic Greek goddess has inspired. Who would even venture to guess how many wretched and thankless lives these few astonishing pages have deprived forever of meaningless purpose? Who can say how many seminarians read the Principia and decided to change vocations and become clowns, or many landlords it has caused to sell their estates and buy yachts or airplanes for smuggling marijuana, or how many politicians it has inspired to vanish alone into the high mountains and become sagacious hermits, or how many investment bankers has it turned into anarchists? Slim Brooks was just an ordinary merchant seaman dwelling in the New Orleans French Quarter until he read Principia Discordia. Then he became the mysterious keeper of the submarine keys, who will never tell anyone that submarine or why it was locked. Roger Lovin was just as a dashing, talented, and handsome con artist who was too shallow to settle into any one thing. But for years and years after he had read the Principia, under his Discordian name of Fang the Unwashed, he consistently and with unswerving devotion to the task excommunicated every new person any of the rest of us initiated into the Discordian Society. Robert Anton Wilson was just a Playboy advisor who wrote safe and insipid answers to inquiries from readers about the size and present whereabouts of John Dillinger's penis until he read this remarkable tract. Then he became Mord the Malignant and wrote a whole library full of widely read books about the Illuminati and how to make synchronicity work for you in finding quarters on the sidewalk. Mike Gunderloy was just a compulsive reader of fanzines until the fateful day he read the Principia Discordia. Under the mistaken impression it was another fanzine, now he is ukulele, I think it's ukulele, the short of the Discordian Society and a big-time publisher of the Fact Sheet 5. Elaine Wexler was just some broad with a funny bone until she read the Principia and asked the question that led to my great definition of theology. Why? She wanted to know the Discordian Society, which worships a female divinity, was so male dominated. Recalling that that more women than men are devout about Christianity with its male god and his male son, I decided that people like religions that blame reality on the opposite sex. So let that be a lesson to us males. Behind every great idea, there is a broad with a funny bone. So there is no telling how much happier and better adjusted reading this book will make you. Principia Discordia is both a psychological laxative and a spiritual corn plaster. Unsolicited testimonials can be mailed to me in care of Out of Order, the sectual organ of the Orthodox Discordian Society at Box 5498, Atlanta, Georgia 30307. Are these mailing addresses still active? How Discordianism will change you is not, however, the real question. Anybody can be changed by something they read. No wit, imagination, creativity, talent, or energy is required for that much. How will you change the Discordian Society is the real question. A question you should ask be asking yourself from page 0001 all the way through to page 0075. Zero. A question you should keep asking yourself long after you overtly close the covers of the Principia Discordia. Wrap it carefully in silk. Solemnly return it to its golden box and bow 5 times after resting in its place of honor or your altar. Most neophyte Discordians are either too cautious or too serious. They constantly ask permission to do this or that, like there are rules hidden away somewhere in the folds of the robes or of office, or they labor at length over ponderous metaphysical schemata with no gags in them, as if the sole ironclad rule of our society that isn't that you have to be funny as much as possible and as often as possible or else. But we are indulgent toward monks who catch on in due time. Seldom do I beat anyone with my trusty staff, and certainly never without their help. This is a mind F. On the subject of personal encounters with with other Discordians, and sometimes even the most careful among us cannot avoid them. Keep in mind large grips of our disorder. Somewhere in the following pages, you will learn the turkey curse. Among Zen Buddhists, it is said, when you meet another bodhisattva on the road, is that Buddhist? Greet him with neither words nor silence. That leaves you with vast selection of barnyard noises with which to choose. But as you crow like a rooster, quack like a duck, or moo like a cow, scrutinize your brother or sister Discordian with alert interest, never cracking a smile, to see how he or she will respond. An oinkingly reply An oinking reply that is too loud indicates a swaggering bravado which falls short of maturistic enlightenment, but that is far better than a feeble, spiritless neigh. Perhaps best of all is simply uttering a mondo that is like picking up the telephone when it rings and saying, wrong number, please. However much of you think about a mondo, it makes no sense. Even clamps and pliers cannot get a hold of it. Yet at the same time, if it is a good mondo, the longer you can think about it, the more it seems like it ought to make sense, although you can never figure out why. Beyond that much, a truly great mondo sticks to your mind like a hot pine pitch, grumming up your thought process for weeks on end. When the Zen master Jashu was still a monk, his master Nansen struck him in answer to some dumb remark or other. Jashu grabbed Nansen's arm, glared at the master, and said, from now on, do not hit people by mistake. Nansen replied as follows, the whole world can tell a snake from a dragon, but you cannot fool a Zen monk. That's genuinely great mondo. From this much, you can see why meeting other Discordians in person can be harrowing. Besides, the pen is only mightier than the sword at a range greater than 5 feet. When Subgenius Church held its first devival, Reverend Ivan Stang of the Dallas Clench expressed surprise at how nice and polite all fans of his Dobbs work were, adding, it's almost disappointing. Still, the wise take no unnecessary chances. All right, we'll continue. Hope you're well. Peace, love. Bye bye.